This prison camp has a near 100% mortality rate for its prisoners. Estimated 1.7 to 2.2 million people were murdered in the name of communism. But why were these prisoners captured? And what unspeakable horrors did they endure? The brutal regime of the Khmer Rouge carried out mass executions and atrocities during their rule, 1975 to 1979. It was responsible for the deaths of nearly a quarter of Cambodians. Cambodian dictator Pol Pot came to power in 1975 after overthrowing the US-backed government of Lon Nol during the Cambodian Civil War. The regime aimed to create a communist agrarian utopia by eliminating urbanization, private property, money, and intellectualism. As a result, cities were evacuated and people were forced into rural labor camps. Led by Pol Pot, the Khmer Rouge captured the capital in April 1975. They swarmed the city and forced people out. Intellectuals, the religious, and anyone who refused was shot, as were the slow, the elderly, and anyone too sick or disabled to walk.
Outside every home, every school, every hospital, they issued their orders. Evacuate immediately, abandon your possessions, and leave the city now.
At 17, Chin Meth was enrolled in the regime of terror. Women had the role of clearing out the houses of people chased from their home.
When I was cleaning up the people's belongings, I saw dead bodies in the houses. The Khmer Rouge soldiers evacuated the town over 3 days.
At some point, loyalists came across Pontiavat High School, a secondary school, which they converted into a prison camp. It was renamed Tuol Sleng, more commonly known as S21. One of their slogans was, "To spare you is no profit, to destroy you is no loss." Classrooms were partitioned into tiny cells no bigger than a shallow stall. Classrooms were transformed into interrogation rooms. Razor wire netting enclosed the camp. A former teacher named Kung Kek Lu, but known by his alias Brother Dutch, was the camp commander of S21. He was followed by 1,700 guards, record keepers, and torturers. They were mere teenagers. The average age was 15 to 18. The Khmer Rouge sought to imprison anyone they could get their hands on, even for the most ridiculous reasons like eating at the incorrect time. One man was arrested for neglecting to water the plants, another for planning to fall asleep while on duty.
By mere suspicion alone, a prisoner would be deemed to be guilty. After all, the regime did not make mistakes.
The state was failing, and to the leaders, it was only logical that they were being infiltrated or sabotaged by foreign spies. Many people were arrested for being a suspected CIA or KGB agent. Prisoners, accompanied by their families, would be brought in by trucks, usually at night. At the site, they were then blindfolded, made to walk up and down the stairs, often stumbling or falling to amuse the guards. Nekam N was the prison photographer who took thousands of pictures of the prisoners during his time there.
This picture was taken when I was arrested. I was 19. This is my friend from the same village as me. This is another friend. This one was the group leader. They're all dead.
Prisoners would then be told the 10 security regulations they must abide by. Some of the rules include: questions are to be answered immediately, contesting a guard is prohibited, and prisoners must not cry when receiving electric shock or lashes. Prisoners would then be given a number. Like the Holocaust, this would be their identity. The first interrogation was more of an interview. They would be made to recount their entire life story as far back as they could remember up until their arrest. This was recorded in the books that would form the basis of any crimes falsely confessed. Then they would be taken to their cells, to a large room where people would be shackled together in a cubicle where they would be chained at the ankles. Witness accounts came from former guards or the handful of survivors. Of the 17,000 prisoners, only about 7 people are believed to have survived. One is a man named Chumme, kept from October of 1978 to January of 1979, who was spared only because of his mechanical expertise. He would repair the sewing machines and the typewriters used to record the confessions. After his interview, he was brought into a small room and shackled to 9 people. Later, he would be kept in a solo cubicle, which was empty except for an ammunition crate and a plastic bottle for toilet use. Any spillage, he would be forced to clean it with his own tongue. He recalls being beaten with bamboo sticks for the first 12 days and nights. He would need to ask permission to move, stand, and sleep. Talking with other prisoners was also strictly prohibited. The only food he was given was a ladle's worth of rice gruel each day. It could only be supplemented by captured cockroaches and rats. More beatings and interrogations followed. Not knowing what to say or even what these groups were, Chum May confessed to wasting materials and damaging machines at his job at making clothes, but this did not satisfy the guards. His toenails were ripped out with metal pincers and electric shocks were administered through his ears, leaving him deaf in one ear and partially blind in one eye. A fabricated confession from a prisoner was only the beginning. Guards would continue to torture them until they gave up the names of their co-conspirators. Not just one or two, by dozens of names. In desperation, Chum May did what they wanted, giving names of 70 of his colleagues, friends, and family. Countless prisoners did the exact same thing to make the torture stop. These people would then be investigated, and if it was thought that they posed a threat, they were arrested and brought to S21. Due to the increasing paranoia, approximately 500 high-ranking Khmer Rouge members were also tortured to death inside S21. The guards were told to continue until they had information the Central Committee could accept. In turn, the Central Committee would form a smash list, those to be executed for being enemies of the Khmer Rouge. Those on the smash list would be shackled, blindfolded, and loaded onto trucks in the dead of night. Many were taken to Shoyang Ek, a nearby killing field. The prisoners were made to kneel before pre-dug graves, then hit in the back of the head with a club, metal pole, or farm implements in order to save bullets. They were then finished off with a slash to the throat and left to rot in a pit of corpses. Khmer Rouge was liberated in 1979 by Vietnamese troops, forcing many of the leaders to flee to Thailand. After the fall of the Khmer Rouge, the extent of the atrocities committed during their rule became apparent to the world. Many of the leaders evaded justice for quite some time. Brother Dutch was only one of 3 former leaders to face trial and was the only one to admit his guilt. He appeared before a special court in his native Cambodia in 2009 where he confessed to a role in the Khmer Rouge.
I am responsible for crimes committed at S21, especially the torture and execution of the people there.
Furthermore, he said, I am solely and individually liable for the loss of at least 12,380 lives. I still and forever wish to most respectfully and humbly apologize to the dead souls. He admitted to killing children by dropping them on their heads from the building's 3rd floor or smashing them against a tree. He also admitted that he was aware that much of the information extracted from the prisoners was false, that he passed it on to his supervisors anyways. He was convicted of his war crimes and crimes against humanity in 2010. The court rejected his appeal, unconvinced by his claims that he had merely been a cog in the Khmer Rouge killing machine and his conversion to evangelical Christianity. He died at age 77 after being hospitalized for breathing problems. The Khmer Rouge killing field became symbolic of the horrors of the regime's rule, with mass graves, human remains, and other evidence revealing the scale of the tragedy. The most infamous site is the Shoyang Ek Genocidal Center, located near Phnom Penh, where tens of thousands of victims were executed and buried in mass graves. The site has been turned into a memorial and museum, serving as a solemn reminder of the atrocities and honoring the memory of those who suffered. Thanks for watching this episode of Crime 101. Be sure to subscribe and see you next time.